is
Make it plain.
Make it plain.
MIP.
With Masamela Matfumo.
Mark Thompson.
Make it plain.
Get woke.
All right, folks, it's the Monday after the jobs report. Joining us once again, the chief economist from the Center on Budget. He's with us every month. We've been doing this for years. Chief economist from the centeronbudget.org, Chad Stone, joins us as always on Make It Plain, first of the month. Hey, buddy, how are you?
I'm well. How are you?
Just fine, just fine. So what, over, 900,000?
Yep. I'm going to take credit for making an accurate prediction for once in my life. The last time we talked, saying that we should expect at least 800,000 and maybe even 1 million. And we didn't quite make 1 million, but we had over 900,000 this month, and last month got revised up to over 900,000 as well. So it's a lot of job creation, makes a big dent in the jobs hole, but there's still a big jobs hole. We're still in deficit. And
we can attribute this number, as usual, as we looked in other months. This is America reopening, correct?
Yes. And the effective stimulus from the legislation that's already been enacted, the American Rescue Plan, has put money in people's pockets and they're spending and businesses are reopening. Yeah, there's the wild card of the Delta variant, but that's so far not had much of an impact. So these were quite strong. Both June and July, it turns out, were strong months. The strongest we've seen since August a year ago. So yeah, that's a long time.
So you mentioned the Delta variant. So again, we probably should not relax because we might be back in a situation. But now let's talk about the different industries themselves. Where there's some industries that were coming back stronger than others this time, and what about federal and state? I presume that state is probably picking up because the schools are going to be reopening soon. Maybe I'm wrong about that.
No, you're not wrong. So leisure and hospitality, again, since it had the biggest ground to make up, it is making it up, but it's not back yet. But it has been a major contributor. The state and local government issue is a tricky one for some technical reasons. So as we've talked about for some time, state and local government really took a hit, especially education jobs. This month, education jobs came back pretty strongly. Now, part of that may be due to the fact that the way the data are corrected for normal ramping up in the fall and letting workers off in the spring in the schools, in the summer in the schools, or ramping up in the late summer and letting people off in the late spring. We try to take that known variation out of the data by what's called seasonal adjustment. But the seasonal pattern of hiring and letting people go in schools and universities has been much more complicated and much different from normal patterns. And so the seasonal adjustment factors can kind of pretend there's going to be jobs when there aren't, or the jobs are going to be decline when there aren't. So the Bureau of Labor Statistics says to be cautious about over-interpreting what is a big jump in education jobs. It's still true, as you said at the beginning of my long diversion on technical matters, that schools are going to be open more than they have been, and that leads to more hiring. So that's a good sign as well.
Yeah.
More MIP after this message.
And you mentioned leisure and hospitality. People are definitely getting back out here, but that still leaves a hole. So give us an update on how much the hole has closed, if it's closed at all, since last
year. So several months ago, we talked about a 10 million jobs deficit, and it's down to 5.7 million now. Compared to 10 million, it's a big improvement. Compared to getting back to where we were, 5.7 is still a big number. So we need several. We need a lot more months of very strong job growth, which are likely in the pipeline. Barring health stuff that we can't predict. But so the economy is opening, as you said. It's opening in fits and starts, but opening at a somewhat rapid pace. But things are ahead of others, and some are lagging behind, and that will continue to be a pattern most likely going forward.
Yeah. We've also these past few months looked at demographic groups. Any change, any improvement with that? We know Black women had been hit the hardest. I doubt that's changed, but is it picking up?
That has not changed. In my tweet thread on the jobs report, we still have a chart about that looks at Black, white, Hispanic, and Asian groups, men and women, and overall. And in general, women are doing worse than men in all those groups, and Black and Hispanic workers in general are doing worse than white and Asian workers in getting jobs back. They still have a bigger hole. Now, the unemployment rate, I have the numbers in front of me. So the Black unemployment rate actually fell a whole percentage point from 8.2 to 9.2. That's the overall unemployment rate. Some of the other things that we focus on are specific groups like prime age workers or adults over 20, where we have better data. But overall, so that's a significant improvement, but 8.2 is still a high rate. For whites, the unemployment rate improved from 5.2% to 4.8%. So that's only a 0.4 of a point drop compared with a point for the Black rate, but the Black rate is still 8.2 when the white rate is 4.8. Hispanic rate is in between. It fell from 7.9 to 6.6, 0.8 of a point, and the Asian rate is low. It fell from 5.8 to 5.3, or 0.5 percentage point. So white and Asian workers Asian American workers are doing better. Black and Hispanic workers are doing better too, but the historic gaps are there.
More MIP after this message.
So, Chad, reconcile this for me, because when we look at leisure and hospitality, and that if that's driving the jobs, I think I'm right. Many people in those jobs are not white and Asian. So shouldn't Black and Hispanic workers, shouldn't they continue to do better under those circumstances?
It's the leisure and hospitality is one of the leading job creating industries. It's still not the bulk of the job creation, and it was in a really deep hole. And so there's still a lot of, as the statistic said, there's still a lot of people who are not newly coming into a job. There's still a lot of base unemployment, even though it's gone down, and even though there's been this comeback. But there's a lot of other industries as well, where Black and Hispanic footwork that are not doing so well, or doing less well than leisure and hospitality. But your intuition is correct, that because leisure and hospitality drove the big spike in unemployment and now is contributing to the decline, that means that things are somewhat better for Black and Hispanic workers, but not dominantly better. Okay.
Now, you've also published a piece on unemployment insurance and where that is. Give us your latest take on that, if you would.
Right. So I have a blog post that hits the headlines in the jobs report, but pivots to unemployment insurance, because our admonition to policymakers is, just because we have pretty strong job numbers does not mean that we have a good unemployment insurance system. And there's still plenty of unemployed workers. And states have been eliminating ahead of time. Red state governors, for the most part, have been eliminating the federal emergency unemployment insurance benefits ahead of their scheduled expiration at the beginning of September. And that means that those people are losing benefits. It also means that new people coming on, new people who are newly becoming unemployed, won't have those protections. And they're faced with what is really a broken, permanent federal state unemployment insurance system, where lots of states provide fewer than 26 weeks, several states provide fewer than 26 weeks of benefits. That was fixed in the pandemic by extending the number of weeks. Eligibility is much more restrictive in the regular state programs. That's why we had, in many ways, what the PUA program, the Pandemic Unemployment Assistance Program, was supposed to do, was to expand on eligibility, but that's going away. benefits are quite low in many states, quite low. And that's why we had supplements in the federal programs. Well, those are going away. People who become newly unemployed are at the mercy of the lousy system. And so we think that it's important that we at least have a start at permanent reform, fundamental reform of the UI system by getting some measures into the bills that Congress is working on right now. The rescue plan, the recovery plan. The infrastructure is not where that would occur, but it would be in the so-called reconciliation bills. And that it's a fact that because those state systems are so lousy, even if the economy does very well going forward, some people lose their jobs through no fault of their own. And if they live in the wrong states, they get really lousy benefits. And then next recession, if we haven't reformed unemployment insurance, we're going to go through the same thing all over again of scrambling to put in place federal programs. There's going to be a heavier burden on the federal government because states haven't done their part leading up to that time to be ready. So there's a lot to be done. And it's not too soon to call attention to that fact. In fact, we were working on that before the recession. We were getting ready for the next recession before the pandemic, or urging policymakers to, and we didn't make it. So now we have another shot at doing the right thing and reforming what is a broken system that's not designed for the 21st century workforce.
Yeah.
And it's women and people of workers of color who suffer the most from the weaknesses in the unemployment insurance system and are less likely to get benefits in the first place, and the benefits they get because of where they live, in large part in southern states with really bad programs, they won't get very good benefits.
Yeah. Chad Stone, folks, be sure to check out his Twitter thread. You can also find his latest article there on Twitter at ChadCBPP. Chad has become, again, quite prolific on Twitter, like a lot of economists, but we see a lot of information there, and he's erudite as always. Chad's up on it. So next time, maybe one day we'll even see Chad on TikTok too, doing his doing his monthly analysis. We appreciate you doing this for years. So folks, slowly climbing back, still a lot more to correct, and hopefully we won't slide back down again as a result of the Delta variant is getting a little bit scary. We'll continue to watch this. Chad, as always, we appreciate you, buddy.
Very happy to do it. It's always fun.
All right, man. Thank you.
Thanks for getting woke and listening to Make It Plain. Please remember to listen, like, and wherever you get your podcasts, please give the show a 5-star rating. And please do spread the word. Let's all continue to pray for each other during this pandemic and this police-demic. If all hearts and minds are clear, it has been made plain.